He may no longer be president, but Barack Obama is as popular as ever here in Germany. The former U.S. leader was in Berlin today to take part in celebrations marking 500 years since the Protestant Reformation. 70,000 people came to hear him and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. I was there. Jill was there. Now, for Obama, it was a chance to reflect on his decisions made in the White House. A young student posed a particularly challenging question, asking Mr. Obama, a Nobel Peace Laureate, to defend his drone policy. Let's take a listen to the answer.
I know for a fact that actions that I took might have resulted in civilian casualties, oftentimes as a consequence of error. But what I will also say is that we were able to put in place a system where there were safeguards in when we went after a terrorist organization, that there had to be near certainty in terms of what the target was, that there was not another option in terms of capturing them, that there was not a danger of civilian casualties involved. And those systems that were put in place resulted in very significant reductions in the kinds of tragic civilian casualties that we saw early on in this process.
Jill, do you think the answer that we heard today from Obama, the former president, is that the same answer we would have received from Obama, the sitting president?
Well, I think the end of his answer to that question, which was that terrorists and terrorism kills an awful lot of people also, would have been a very necessary part of the answer when he was president.
The German Chancellor, she came in and actually maybe gave that addendum there,
she
right?
She did indeed.
Yeah.
But, he was answering, I thought, the questions very thoughtfully, not in a politician type of manner. I thought, one of the interesting parts of today was he answered the question about not helping the Syrian refugees and not doing anything in Syria in a way that I thought showed that he has real second thoughts about what his administration's policy was.
I mean, we heard the word regret and second thoughts. I heard a lot of people saying that it was incredibly honest, what we heard today. How do you explain just the outpouring of affection that we saw for him, even today? I mean, the place was packed with people, and he is no longer in office.
Right, but the place, meaning Berlin, was packed when he was just a candidate running in 2008. So many people came out then, too. I mean, he's the rock star of politics, and it is an American who is loved throughout the world and here in Germany. I came on one of President George W. Bush's trips to Berlin, and that was during the Iraq War.
Right.
That was certainly not the kind of greeting he got. And
if you look, let's say, 5, 10 years into the future at American politics and American journalism, and I say American journalism, but this affects the whole world now, as we said earlier. Where do you see things? Is what we're seeing with Trump, some people have said it's the beginning of a movement. Other people are saying it's the end of an era. How do you gauge that?
Well, my friend Maureen Dowd, who's a great columnist for the New York Times, recently called this election the last shriek of white men. And I kind of agree with that. I think the population trends in the country going forward, immigration trends, make it hard for me to see, unless the Republican Party really changes, how a party that's so dominated by white people and white men in particular is going to be a majority.
Yeah. Jill Abramson, it was really good to have you here at the big table on the day. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much.
Come in. Thank you. Well, now also in attendance at the celebrations marking the Protestant Reformation was Germany's top Protestant bishop and the chairman of the country's Evangelical Church Council, Mr. Heinrich Bedford Strom.
Strom, this church congress celebrates 500 years of Reformation, 500 years after Martin Luther. Does religion still have a uniting role or more of a dividing role?
I think religion, if it really talks about God, has a reconciling, a loving, and a uniting role. It's blasphemy if people murder other people in the name of God.
You mentioned it. We've seen the deadly terror attack in Manchester this week. Last year, Berlin was hit. How much does it worry you to host such a massive event here in Berlin?
Well, actually, this Kirchentag is a big sign for Germany, I would even say more than Germany, for the world, that many, many people will not be afraid of these terrorists and will not let them succeed in spreading fear. So it was a big sign of strength that we have experienced yesterday and today. We will overcome violence with peace, with reconciliation. And we have set this clear sign, and I hope many people will join.
This is also a very political church congress. We've heard Barack Obama speak, Angela Merkel, but also other political parties are joining in 4 months ahead of a national election. What kind of signal does that send?
Well, a Christian faith can never be something individualistic. It always has to do with loving God and loving neighbor. That's inseparably connected. And if you really love your neighbor, you want the misery that he or she is in to be overcome. And of course, in many cases, there are political reasons for this. When 24,000 people die every day because they do not have enough to eat or enough medicine, that must be dealt with politically. So there is no choice for us as Christians. We need to get involved in politics. It must always be clear that we come from our spiritual grounding in Jesus Christ. But if we take that spiritual grounding seriously, we must get involved.
All right, the day continues online. You'll find us on Twitter, either at DW News, or you can write directly to me at Brent Goff TV. Don't forget to use the hashtag #TheDay. And remember, whatever happens between now and then, tomorrow is another day. We'll see you then, everybody.